Weather on the go, all your weather coverage. In today's video, we will be focusing on our slow-moving storm system bringing more rain, snow, and ice across the United States through the rest of the week. And we have a polar vortex disruption event and a stratospheric warming event that will impact our weather as we go deeper into January. We'll dive into the details in just a moment. But if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns across North America and the tropics, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. And I would love to hit 75,000 subscribers by the end of January. And you can help me get there by subscribing to the channel down below. Also pressing that like button. It helps out more than you know. Looking out the door this morning, and it is chilly across the western half of the United States. That cold front did move through across the country. We are back into the teens and 20s across the Rockies, the middle of the country here into the high plains, and the upper Midwest back into the 20s as well this morning. We are hanging on to some warmer air, some milder air across the mid-Atlantic, the northeast, and the southeastern U.S. as we go through this morning. Temperatures there are firmly into the 40s, 50s, and low 60s. And looking at the surface analysis map, as of this morning on Wednesday, December 27th, there's our low pressure system, very stubborn to move further to the east. We also have a cold front that is moving across the east coast that is responsible for our cool down over the past couple of days. And this afternoon, you will be feeling a bit of that chill out there compared to what we have been seeing of late across the United States. So here are your afternoon high temperatures across the country. Notice we're back into the upper 20s and 30s. Nothing we can't handle, but it's a bit of a shock to the system after we saw temperatures into the 50s and 60s across the middle of the country over the past few days. A little bit warmer out to the east where that cold front hasn't yet made it, but as we go into tomorrow, those temperatures will certainly be cooling down. Here is our storm system across the country, across portions of Missouri and into the Illinois Valley. You can see that with the lowering of the pressures with the purples and blues on here, and the reds and oranges over the top. That is a blocking high pressure system across Canada that is actually causing some warmer temperature anomalies over the top there into the Canadian provinces as of today. As we go into Friday, the end of the week, you can see we have the low pressure moving further east, but notice it doesn't take up a lot of real estate over the next couple of days. It kind of drifts further off to the east more or less as we go into your Thursday and Friday time frame. Over the past 3 days, that storm system was responsible for producing some very heavy rainfall from the upper Midwest south to the Missouri Valley and the southern United States. We did see widespread rainfall accumulations of 1 to 3 inches right in the middle of the country. And we also saw some very heavy snow with blizzard-like conditions, some ice up here across the Dakotas, Nebraska, into northern Kansas and Colorado over the past 3 days. And looking at some of these snowfall amounts, we saw well over a foot of snow in much of the state of South Dakota, much of Nebraska. We saw some areas up to 2 feet here of snowfall, not too far away from the Rapid City, South Dakota region over the past 3 days. Looking at the current weather alerts this morning, we still hang on to those ice storm warnings here in the purples, and into the lighter purples, those are winter weather advisories, and we're still hanging on to a few blizzard warnings and winter storm warnings as well with this system across the northern high plains. Current weather conditions, as you step out the door this morning, we're still seeing that very stubborn low pressure system centered across portions of northwest Missouri, very close to Kansas City this morning. We do have some backwash moisture. It's not a lot of moisture, but still some snowfall and some freezing drizzle, which is actually a lot of ice accretion with this region into the eastern Dakotas as well this morning. And we also have some warm rains across portions of the northeast, the mid-Atlantic, and the East Coast as we go into this morning. So moving ahead to today, there's our storm system, some snow showers, some freezing drizzle back there with the cold side of the system into the upper Midwest and the northern high plains here. This could be causing some travel impacts as you go across portions of Minnesota, the Dakotas, Nebraska, getting into parts of Iowa there and into Missouri. Warmer rains across the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic could be bringing us some accumulating rains, some moderate rainfall as we go through today across portions of Pennsylvania, New York State, and even into Maryland. As we go into Thursday, though, the storm system's going to drift off further to the east, but very slowly. We're going to see some snowfall there across the Illinois Valley and portions of Chicago, and especially south and west of Chicago into central, southwestern Illinois there. Eastern Iowa, we could be seeing some decent snows, a brief period of some moderate snowfall as well on Thursday. Again, all rain for the Northeast, though, and Michigan. And then as we go into Friday, again, this system's going to be drifting off to the east very slowly. Still some backwash moisture out there with some rain or a rain-snow mix for parts of the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, and the Northeast. When it's all said and done, additional rainfall accumulation in inches now through the weekend on Saturday, December 30th, as we round out our last weekend of December. And you can see the heaviest of the rains will be across the Northeast, the coastal New England region, including the I-95 corridor, Boston to New York City, Long Island, down through Baltimore there, into New Jersey. Widespread 1 to 3 inches of rain there. Some areas could be seeing 3.5 inches of rain as we go in through that Saturday time frame. And that is concerning a little bit for some flash flooding across these areas, across the I-95 corridor, places like Hartford, Connecticut, getting into New York City, including Long Island there, back into New Jersey, the Philadelphia region, Baltimore, some of those areas, Washington, D.C., washing out for some flash flooding from today into your Thursday morning. And then the cold side of the system. Not much snow is left over, but there could be some decent snows across portions of the Illinois Valley, 1 to 2 inches of some wet snow here accumulating across portions of north central Illinois, eastern Iowa, and getting down toward the St. Louis region and eastern Missouri over the next few days as the system continues to move off further to the east. Then as we go into early January, we flip the script to 2024, and we're still seeing more of that El Nino look to our weather pattern. Here is the Climate Prediction Center 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. It's warmer to the north and across the Pacific Northwest. And we have normal temperatures in the white here from the south central United States across the Ohio Valley and into the Northeast. The I-95 corridor, seeing those normal temperatures for this time of year as we go into early January, and below normal temperatures in the blue across the southeast, including the southeast coast and Florida there from New Year's Day on Monday through that Friday, January 5th time frame. Looking at those temperatures, I know we have a lot of plans out there for New Year's Eve, New Year's Day out there, so let's get you the weather forecast for that. High temperatures for Sunday, New Year's Eve on the 31st of December. Notice we're cooler, just like we have today. We have some cooler weather moving south out of Canada. Not overly cold, but we could be seeing some 20s and teens out here, especially with that fresh snowpack across the northern high plains. A little bit of some modified cooler air, but still into the 30s across the Ohio Valley. And then further south from there, we're into the 40s and the 50s. And going into your Sunday night, New Year's Eve night, these are your low temperatures. That freezing line's going all the way south into the Dallas-Fort Worth area, into Little Rock, Memphis, the Nashville region down to 27 for your New Year's Eve time frame. New York City into the low 30s. So make sure you bundle up if you were heading out to any New Year's Eve festivities as we ring in the new year. And looking at the new year on Monday, these are your high temperatures again, much colder across the north and also across the south United States as well. We're still seeing those 30s and 40s continuing as we go into the new year. And looking at our precipitation trends for the first 5 days of January there, from New Year's Eve into New Year's Day, and then going through that Friday time frame, southern United States still seeing the active weather, drier across the north, but it won't be completely absent with our precipitation out there. Overall, though, it will be trending drier for the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and the Northeast. For New Year's Eve, again, any festivities out there, A-OK, maybe outside of a couple of sprinkles or snow flurries, we are A-OK across southern Canada and the United States, and even northern Mexico, very dry as well. As we go into New Year's Day, again, very quiet across the United States and Canada, outside of a couple snow showers or rain showers, very dry, no big storm systems to talk about as we ring in the new year. And looking at the middle of next week on January 3rd, there could be a smaller system down here toward East Texas into Louisiana, but hey, we need the rainfall down there, so we'll take it however we can get it into into the middle of next week. And here is the rainfall as we go into the first 5 days of January. Predominantly across the southern United States here, from the Sacramento Valley in California, and then east-southeastward across portions of Arizona, New Mexico, into Texas here, across Louisiana, near the Gulf Coast, and then rounding itself up to the north and west there towards Georgia, Florida, and the Carolinas during that time frame. And the heaviest of the rains do look to fall across the Houston area, Corpus Christi, possibly down into the Lake Charles region, New Orleans, seeing some heavier rain for the first 5 days of the month of January. But again, we'll take whatever we can get. We still have significant drought concerns across the southern United States. Severe, extreme, exceptional drought does continue across portions, especially of Louisiana, Mississippi, into Tennessee, and even Alabama there. So we really need the rainfall, and even, yes, New Mexico seeing that as well. So we really do need the rainfall. Now we have to talk about the middle of January and what's to come. I know you see this word probably once or twice every single winter, and it's the polar vortex. We had just a sudden stratospheric warming event, and a pretty strong event, one of the strongest ones we've seen since 2019, and the polar vortex is really going to get disrupted as we go in towards that second, third week of January, and it really weakens up to the north. Right now, the polar vortex is stable, and when it's stable, the cold air is bottled up to the north into Canada and Siberia, but when it weakens, the jet stream winds around the polar vortex weakens, that's when the cold air starts to plunge south, either into Europe or across North America into Canada or the lower 48. So let's look ahead to this here. And first we look at the teleconnections, okay? So we look at the North American oscillation, and what this means is we still have a positive value. So we have a lot of our storms moving across the middle of the country, but once it goes to neutral and even negative NAO, that means a lot of our storms will be more southern stream dominated across the southern US, and then rounding itself up the east coast into more of that classic nor'easter type of look here. And then looking at the AO, the Arctic oscillation, this is very important for when we have the cold air. Notice we're around the neutral at 0 right now. We're trending negative and possibly well into the negatives as we go into the middle and end of January, and that is concerning with that polar vortex disruption. Another piece to the puzzle here is the snow depth. You can see it's very snowy up there, well to the north into northern Canada. Alaska's had a lot of snow this year, but southern Canada hasn't had as much snow as previous winters, at least right now on the ground. In the northern US as well, besides the northern Rockies, we really haven't had a ton of snow so far this year. And looking at mid-January, this looks like our snow depth as we get in towards that 10th, 11th, 12th time frame of January. So as that cold air starts to spill south with that polar vortex disruption, you notice here are your high temperatures around that January 12th time frame here, give or take a day. You can see, look at these temperatures, well below 0 up into southern Canada, and then quick changeover to a very tight gradient here from 30s and 40s across the southern US to teens and single digits across the northern US there. And then around the middle of the month, that's when the heart of the polar vortex could be moving toward the US with temperatures. Yes, these are high temperatures potentially. The Dallas-Fort Worth area struggling to get to 20. We could be below 0 as far south as Kansas, New Mexico, and even the Oklahoma-Texas panhandle here. Well below 0 to the north as we go into the Dakotas, Wyoming, into Montana there. And then looking at January 18th or around then, you can see we still have the effects of that, but the modifying air as we start to see more of that snowpack building across the United States. Speaking of the snowpack building, let's look at our precipitation anomaly for the middle of January. No, it hasn't really been that snowy of a winter unless you live in the Rockies or way up to the north in Canada. It really hasn't been. And I know I really feel for all you folks out there that have snow plowing businesses and stuff like that. it does look to change as we get into the middle of January, the second half as well. And you can see the above normal precip anomalies across the southeast and then up the east coast. That's because that NAO turns negative. That means a lot of our storms will be across the south and then moving up across the east coast as we go into the middle and end of January. So showing you that here, this is the jet stream. You notice across the southern U.S., that jet stream, it acts as a highway for storms, and we see that rounding itself across New Mexico, Texas, and then up the east coast as we go into mid-January, and that likely will extend into late January as well. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. So here's our snow depth. Watch as it starts to build further south. We got the foundation poured, folks. If you're building a house, you need a foundation. And here's the foundation of the weather is the snowpack, okay? We got the cold air coming south. The snowpack starts to move further south as well. Initially, around the first half of January, it's really going to be much of the same. The snow line will be well to the north. But notice, by the middle of the month, we start to add to that and further south across the central plains, the Midwest, and into the northern Ohio Valley. And initially the Northeast doesn't get in on the action, but watch this as we get into the 18th, 19th, 20th time frame of January. That's the second half of the month. Notice some heavier snows there for the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, Indiana, Ohio included, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and then much of the Northeast, and yes, possibly even the I-95 corridor as we get in toward that second and third week into January. So something to keep an eye on, and I know we're holding hope out for you folks that do plow out there for a living. We definitely will get you some snow later on this winter. So make sure to subscribe to the channel down below. Help me get to 75,000 subscribers by the end of January. I do appreciate all my subscribers and followers out there. I really do appreciate all the generosity you bring to this channel and all the support as well. So thank you so much. Also, make sure to like the video down below, share this video with friends, family, and on social media, and I hope everybody has a great rest of their Wednesday out there.